Let's get started with our two hands. Both hands, I'm going to call a pre-flop 2-bet, and both hands, I'm going to be on the button. So hand number one is from a 10 NL full ring game. We are seven-handed right now. So we have under the gun raises. We get a caller, and then it's to me. So we'll start with the raiser. Razor is at 50-50. I have two hands on him. I have two hands on the caller, and we're gonna see one of the blinds also calls. So when we think about the what hands are calling, um, just jot that down. When we think about what hands are calling, um, and what hands are raising, we're just gonna have to do a default. So out of two hands, he's early position. We're gonna give him somewhat of a tight range. I think pocket pairs, something like that. Maybe king jack. I think we're gonna do something like that. That's his opening range. We don't know much about him. With my ace queen of diamonds, I'm gonna be ahead of that range. Um, and then the caller, again, we don't know a lot about him. We can kind of give him something similar, uh, maybe 13%, 16%. I think 16% range is probably okay. I think we could do all of the suited aces from what I've seen. Probably get rid of some of those hands like that. So we're at 14%. Maybe it's more. Maybe he raises. Maybe he calls. But we'll have a range like that. And again, my ace queen of diamonds is going to be pretty darn good against that. So what do we do? Well, we have to look at the raise. The raise size is 3.5 big blinds, just slightly larger than three big blinds, which is what we're used to. I think we have to think about: do we want to take this hand multi-way, or should we try to isolate and get in position? Being on the button, we're up against an early position raiser, and I think if it was just the early position raiser, I think I'd be fine with just calling. But here, I think with a caller already, I think it might be better to just go ahead and raise, try to get a heads up, because against two players, our ace queen um, isn't going to be. It's going to be have a higher equity of the three hands, but it won't be above 50%. So, multi-way pot, we're going to lose more frequently if we just cold call. And then we haven't even considered the blind. So if we call here, one of the blinds or maybe both of the blinds might come along. Especially the big blind's getting a discount. It's only 2.5 big blinds for him to call, and the pot's going to be 12 big blinds. So he's getting like 6 to 1, over 6 to 1 odds. So I actually think, if I were to play this hand today, I think I would definitely three bet at least the pot, and try to get it heads up. If everyone folds, who cares? Everyone folds. That's 8.5 big blinds that I just picked up with that raise without having to make a hand or without having to bluff. I didn't do that. I just called, and that allowed the big blind to see the flop. So what is the big blind playing? Well, I've got 500 hands on him. He's 34-25. You can see he calls 2-bet 18% of the time. Let's take a look at his position stats. If we look at his VPIP, it's 44% in the big blind. He is probably more likely to call from the big blind, call one of these 2 bets from the big blind, than he is more in like mid position, early position. We can look a little bit more at this hand. So his 3 bets, I guess his 3 bets by position is 16%, 7 out of 43. And we could 7 out of 43. We have to kind of look at the steal and say, okay, what would happen if he's in a classical steal steal situation. While here he three bets a steal 6 out of 17 times, so 35%. Versus his just regular three bet by position 7 out of 43. So I think he's more likely to three bet when he is against a steal than he is against early position raiser. So what we're going to do is adjust this range. So this was only a 14.4% calling range, and I'm going to I think what we're going to do is let's open up Hold'em EQ so we can get some of these ranges going in here. So what I have is Ace Queen of Diamonds. We have pre-flop raiser. Pre-flop raiser. We've got our first caller. And you can see just against those, I'm at 38%. So I think it makes much more sense to go ahead and just go ahead and three bet. And then when we get a call, I think what we're going to have to do is say if this guy's more likely to three bet versus a steal, I think we're going to add in ace queens, allow him to bet those. I think we are going to add in a wider suited range since he is just calling, and maybe also add in some of these offsuits since he's getting a price to call and to try to catch something. That's probably about okay, 35%. So you can see against the three players, I'm about 35%. With this fourth player, you see that, yeah, I'm still ahead of everyone, but now I'm only at about 30%. So benefits of raising. All right, so let's see here. Our flop comes out queen of spades, 4 of diamonds, 3 of clubs. And let's get that in here so we can see the multi-way aspect of it. So on this board, against the entire ranges, with me hitting top pair, I am now over 50%. I'm at 61% against the other 3 hands. That's pretty darn good. And we can't really try to slow play it because we have so many players in. It's easy for one of them, especially this button, to kind of pick up equity on the turn and then beat us when that equity gets realized when he hits his draw. So what's going to happen? Villain 2 checks. I think Villain 2 checks his entire range. I don't think he's going to really bet out. He does donk flop 1 out of 30. But, you know, I bet if we go in, most of the time the donks happen when it's heads up or just two-way. Here we're four-way. I don't think it's going to be likely, even if he had a queen, that he's going to donk at all. So it's 1 out of 30. So I think he's checking his entire range, which gets Villain 3 to bet 10.4 big blinds. So that's like 2/3 pot maybe. 3/4, a little more than 3/4. What is he going to do that with? I think he's going to do that with top pair. I think he might do it with pocket pair below top pair too. But I don't think he's going to be doing it with any of the weaker pairs. I don't think he's going to be doing it as a bluff. At least a reasonable player wouldn't. I don't think would do that. Not with 3 other opponents in the hand, especially a caller. So I think he's going to be skewed towards either top pair, pocket pair below top pair, or maybe an overpair, aces, kings, possibly a set. I don't have 3s and 4s in his range there. Just trying to be conservative because, again, not every player, I'm going to say maybe not even half of the players are going to raise in early position with these lower pocket pair hands. So against that range, we're actually going to be still just solid. 74%. So we're going to at least justified to make a call. Villain 5 folds. So this guy is done. Get rid of him. All right. That guy's done. And now, so we're at still at 75%. We can adjust his range. So, oops, that was our razor. Range 3 is the one that folded. All right, and now it's to us. So what do? Well, we can call or we can raise. And I think since we already have a bet here, I think it is justified to bet one more time. He's showing some set of looseness. He c-bets the flop 89%. His fold to c-bets 42%. I think if he has anything, any sort of draw, he's probably going to call this. And we're talking backdoor flush draws, gut shot draws are going to call. All the pocket pairs below the queens are going to call. So we're talking about weak pair. We're going to say open-ended straight draw, gut shot, backdoor flush draws. Ace high hands, probably not. I think ace high is going to fold. So I think all of that he's going to be calling. And if he calls with all of those, it's just that. We're still ahead at 60%. I think if we raise, he's going to fold out his 2-card backdoor flushes. I think he'll fold out his weak pair, probably his middle pair. His pocket pair below top pair, I bet would still call and hope to hit trips and try to bust me. Because right now, if I raise, I'm kind of representing that queen. I think top pair is going to call, over pair, 2 pair, and so forth. So we're going to lose out, all these backdoor flush draws that I do think he would be calling for at least one bet, and I think we want them in. We have top pair, top kicker. We ourselves have a backdoor diamond draw and a backdoor wheel. Not the greatest, but we do have that equity. So I think I'm going to be okay with just calling here, and villain does come along for a call. So now we go see a turn. Turn is the 4 of clubs. So pairs the board, and just against those continuance ranges, I don't think it really changes much. It's not going to change our equities much. I'm still at 61%. I still think villain 2 is probably going to check. I think if he has a hand, so if he has like a 4, I would envision a check raise happening. But I think he's still going to be checking basically his entire range. And most of his range is all weak or draws. Villain 3 also checks. So once villain 3 checks, then I think what we can do is eliminate the overpair. I think aces, kings, aces and kings are going to bet. I also think almost all of the queens are going to bet. I think ace queen will bet, but maybe king queen and queen jack might check. We could apply some filter, maybe assign weighting to them, but against 2 players that already checked and with having a 4 come out, I think queen jack, queen jack and king queen might get a little scared. Even the ace queen might get a little scared that maybe someone has a 4, maybe this guy has a 4 and just hit trips. So now he's going to slow play. So I think full house is going to check. We have the overpair, the ones that check. Pocket pair below top pair also is going to check now. Flush draw I think is going to check. So I think we've got a checking range of 73.2%. I'm still a monster favorite against that 90%. 90%, and against this individual, I'm at 84%. So, I'm doing great. The question is, do I check behind or do I bet? And I think here's the situation. The pot is 45.7. The effective stack is 66.8 against this opponent, and then 84 big blinds against this opponent. So we basically have about a pot, 1.5x pot to 2x pot bet remaining in our stack. If we bet pot, then and we get called, then we're going to have a really small bet on the river. I think once it goes check, we could easily overbet pot at this point. I think though, if we overbet, we have to think about what hands the players are going to call and what they perceive to be our range. I think if we bet pot or overbet pot, I think people are either going to give us credit for the ace or they're going to give us for credit for maybe queens or threes, or maybe I don't think quad fours. I think will get discounted significantly. Possibly even a club draw. So then the question becomes, if we have a club draw in our range, maybe even 5-6 of clubs, what hands would call? And I think with this pot at this level, this 10NL level, I don't think people are going to really be calling with pocket pair below top pair. I think some of the top pairs might also fold. They're going to say, you know what, I'm just going to fold. I'm worried about ace queen. So he could say, I've got kicker problems. I think, full house is going to call and we're going to, we're getting crushed. I think the flush, the flushes that are out there right now are, what, king queen of clubs. That's for this player. I don't think he's going to call that. He has to call all in against this player. Yeah, he's going to call quads. He's going to call full house. Is he going to call the four? Probably. He'll rationalize that I might have, the club draw. What about the he doesn't have any overpairs. His top pair hands, maybe he calls with ace queen, so we split, but I'm gonna lean towards no. His flush draws, I think the only flush draws that are gonna call are those ace flush draws, and maybe not all of them. Maybe he only does, ace queen of clubs. Maybe he calls, king queen of clubs. Maybe. I think we're gonna fold out so many hands, whereas I think if we check, we keep a lot of hands and might get one of these guys uh, to bet a wider range. That's why I checked. I thought, you know what, I can give that club draw. I can let a hand go because at this point, no one's really showing overt strength. I'm gonna check and hope to get a bet on the turn. The turn was 10 clubs. So if we go 10 of clubs here, and we know this guy's range contracted because he checked and didn't continue, but the other player still had a fairly wide range. So once we added, let's see here, 10 of clubs, we're at 63%. We are still favored. I don't think that's really going to change much against that player. This player, though, is going to picked up a little bit of equity because he could have had some of those club draws. So what happens? Villain 2 checks. Do we think he's going to check everything? I think he's going to check his full house. I don't think he's going to check all of his flushes. I think maybe his ace high flushes may put in, throw in a bet. His king high flushes may throw in a bet. Try to build up a pot that they could win. Three of a kind may also kind of do that bet, so we can kind of discount those and say, two pair I think is just still going to check. Top pair is going to check. Pocket pair, middle pair, weak pair, right? All this stuff I think it's going to check, and we're going to be way ahead, 75% against all of those that check. Villain 3 bets 30, so he basically bet what is it, 75, little less than 75, leaves himself with 36.8. What is he going to bet with? I think now he's going to come alive with full house. He's going to come alive with flush. And once everyone checked, I also think he's going to bet with top pair hand. So 21.2. Pocket pair below top pair, that's pocket jacks. I don't think so. Uh, I, I think jacks might just check call. Um, I think it might just check call and see see what happens. Check if I bet, maybe call just to keep me honest or whatever. So I think against that range, you can see I'm at 57%. 57%. He's got the top pair. All the other ones, he's got full house or a flush. Am I gonna fold? No, I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna call no matter what. And then we can think about this. Okay, if we call, what hands is he going to call with? He's going to call with two pair. He's going to probably call with top pair once. Is he going to call with pocket pair below top pair? Probably not. Medium pair, weak pair? No, probably not. So when we look at that, we're at 68% against him. So collectively now, we are looking at, and this is if I just call, get these ranges in here. Now collectively, we're behind. So individually, we may be ahead, but uh, collectively, I don't think we're gonna be the favorite. So I think he has the strongest range over both of us because he has more of these flushes and full house than either of us. That's why that number. So individually, yeah, I think we have. Uh, yeah, we've it's I think we've got it. I mean, we're justified in calling, uh, and but we do have to expect that we will lose some of the time. If we raise, I think all of the top pairs fold. I think flushes and full houses call. Uh, I think against this guy, his flushes, we're dealing with you know king high, queen high. I think king high probably calls, queen high probably doesn't. So I think if we raise and he calls, I think we're behind him. If we raise, so let's get these back. If we raise, I maybe the queen calls. I think he's gonna fold. So I'm not sure if raising is gonna be the best thing. So I did a call, which I like. I think that's fine. Villain two fold. So I think overall with villain two, he had one of these pocket pair below top pair or worse hands. So we get to see the river, and he shows 10-8 offsuit, which is shocking. I did not have 10-8 in his range at all. And I mean, no surprise, I have two hands on this player. I don't know how he plays. So if we adjust his opening range, if he has 10-8, he probably has those. He probably has those. He's going to be doing that. Maybe not queen 9. I bet he has at least a 7. We're going to have all of the suited ones. I bet all of the pocket pair. Maybe these down to there. 10-8 suited probably also suggests that he's got these 3 gappers. I mean, he could be at 43%. And then, when we step back and go to the flop, then, he bets. I think that changes what he's going to bet. We know that he c-bet 10-8, so we can say he's going to be betting all of these, maybe 100%. Maybe he just bets 100%. Anyways, and I think based on his play, we're going to have to assume that. And then when he checks again, then I'm going to say he probably isn't checking these quads and full houses anymore. I think he's going to still bet. He's going to still bet the overpair. Maybe the top pair he bets two. Pocket pair below top pair is going to check. Ace high hands, no made hands. Flush draws probably might check. Open flush draw might still be aggressive. It's small. We'll leave it in there. Gut shots, overcards, checks. So he bets then. Yeah, geez, 88.1%. You can see we're a huge favorite. And then when the 10 of clubs hits, uh, he is going to bet. And we know he bet with a pocket pair with a middle pair. So now any middle pair and above, he's going to be betting. You can see we're at 90%, and that's going to change a lot. So with this player now on the river, we're doing that. We're way ahead, 62%. I still think if we raise, I think he's going to fold out. He's probably going to fold out the 10. He's probably going to fold out, most of these hands. I don't think our raise is going to be for value. So I still like the call, even though we didn't get this 10-8 because he's an unknown. It's good to kind of go back and kind of work through it and think about what hands would have called. And even though he has a bigger range, if we raise here, I only think we're really going to be getting called by hands that beat us. All right, so this is hand number 1. Let me close out and get hand number 2. Hand number 2 is a 6-handed, 6-max game, 10 NL. It's on a site that I normally play, so I'm sure I'm playing against some of the same opponents that play in the full ring game. It is 6-max, so I think we have to be aware that some of the ranges may be more skewed towards big cards and less about smaller cards. So Villain 10 here, 18 hands. He's played 83%. He's raised 56%. Open raises for 2 big bets, and it's on me. So his 2 big bets doesn't really tell me much. I think we're going to say all pocket pairs. I think we're going to say all broadways. Probably any suited aces. Probably any suited kings. Probably the offsuit aces. Yeah, we're going to do our 1-gappers. Probably something like that. Something pretty wide. Only 18 hands, but I think that's significantly wide. Let's go with that. So 46%, less than his 56% open raising range. And if we look at his position stats, he's not playing position. So he's played 100% of hands from EP, cutoff, button, small blind. Big blind, it's only been 1 out of 3. MP, 1 out of 2. So maybe he's playing where he's going to raise every hand if it's folded to him. So if that's the case, then what I think we can do is just do any 2 cards and say this is his range because he's first stacked. I have 6-7, and question is, what should we do? Should we call? Should we raise? His fold to 3 bet stat is 0. But he's only faced 3 bet 1 time. 18 hands. So what do we do? Do we call? Do we raise? I think against this player, it's probably good to just go ahead and raise. Isolate him. I think when we raise, this range is going to get contracted. So I think when we raise, he may still play something wide like that, but it gets rid of a lot of these hands. And at the same time, when we raise, we're going to put pressure on the blinds to go ahead and fold. So that's why I think raising here to isolate this very loose opponent. This opponent's also loose, so I kind of assume that if I call, he's going to come along, and he doesn't raise. He's a loose passive. Being from the blind, he's going to have a tighter range than this. If he raises, he's going to be at the top of his range, and we could just fold. So let's see here. I called, And then, of course, villain 7 called and the big blind folded. So let's get villain 7 in here and let's start looking at his range. All right, so he's 65-6. He didn't raise. Our called 2-bet range, I think we're going to do something like that, but we're going to have to add in all of these. Maybe something like that. I think he raises quite a bit. Well, he raises 6%. He's not going to be overly aggressive with this raise, so maybe jacks plus, ace king with the ace king suited, or even something like this. When you look at his raising range, I mean, just queens plus ace king is like under 3%, 2.6 maybe. So we can add those. It makes it a little bit wider, not quite 6%, but he's small blind, so I think he's going to be a little bit tighter than that. So queens plus is probably sufficient, and this is still 35% of the hand. So even though he's at 65%, when we look at it, his small blind 3 out of 3. He's also playing a lot of hands, and against the range, against a raise, he may be calling all of the suited hands, or all of the king suited, ace suited, and so forth. I think we're going to leave it at a tighter range, 36.8. And against this, again, I'm not horrible, but I think I missed the raise to get this guy out. I'd rather play against one player than against two. So right now, we see the flop, and the flop comes 3-4-6, 2 diamonds, 3 diamonds, 4 hearts, 6 of diamonds, and it is on small blind. So small blind checks, no big surprise. He's going to check his entire range. We hit top pair, so we should be ahead of his range. And then villain 10 c-bets. What I have out of these 18 hands, he has c-bet 6 out of 7 times. I think he's going to be c-betting probably almost all of his range. His c-betting out of position is 50%, so he's out of position. He's against 2 opponents. I don't think he's going to be c-betting his entire range here, but it's going to be most of his range. So we're going to do all of these combo draws. We're going to do any sort of pair, weak pair sets, all of these. And I think he's going to be doing it with his ace high hands. Anything, because he thinks if an ace comes, hey, he's got something. I think he's going to fold a lot of the overcards. Just be done with it. So I've got 80.6% that he's c-betting. And we're still ahead of that, so I'm okay with calling. Now, to note is that I only have 51 big blinds here. Villain has 64 big blinds. So we're not at 100 big blind stacks. So if I call, I'm down to 45. We're going to have 17 in there, and we could possibly get it in if needed. Yeah, I think I do beat him, but there's a lot of cards that are going to come on the turn that are going to be very scary. Very scary to play. Do I think we should fold? I think it's too early to fold, but we have to be aware that if we call, we need a pretty good card to hit, at least a card that we could reasonably represent in our range. So I think 7-8 is in our range. I think ace 5 is in our range. Maybe ace 2 is in our range. So I think we need to have something like an 8 come, a 9 needs to come. Maybe even a diamond's going to allow us to pick it up if a diamond comes. I just called. Again, I'm kind of... A fold, I think, is tight, but you could make an argument that a fold is okay if we're up against aggressive players, because so many cards are going to come on the turn and the river that we're just going to hate. So I think folding could also be okay. I called this time with top pair because I think he has a wide range that I'm still ahead, and I have some draws. So kind of a call for a little bit of value, call for taking it away later. But at the same time, by calling, I'm going to allow villain seven to call behind, um, and he did. So what is he calling with? Uh, I think he's going to be calling with a lot of these same hands: flush draw, open ended straight, gut shot. I think two card backdoor flush draws might call. He is loose. He is passive. I think his combos might be calling. So calling at 44.9. I'm still ahead. I don't have the ace high hands in his range. I just don't think he's gonna really be calling those. He's out of position. Uh, but again, it's six max. I don't have a huge amount of experience with six max to judge if ace high hands are just going to call here. Turn was a seven of diamonds, giving me two pair, but now putting a diamond on the board. So when we look at the flush is still, we can't be scared of it because it is going to be just a small percentage of total hands in their range. Now, I think villain seven is going to have a much wider range of diamonds, and you can see that in that now they hit a flush 15.7% of the time. He also has a straight now 17.4% of the time. So straights and flushes are going to make up, over 30% of this player's range. He checked, and I do think he's gonna check those. So his check isn't really revealing. This player though, the flush only hits 8%. He has a straight, so his flush is 5.3%. His straight is 20%. Um, So 25% of the time he's got a straight or a flush, and we hit two pair. Uh, so what is he going to do? Now he continues betting. He bets at 16.9. Question is he going to bet his straights and flushes? Yeah, I think he's going to do that. Is he going to bet his set? Yeah, I think he's going to do it. Is he going to bet two pair? Yeah, I still think he's going to bet it. What about his overpair? Yeah, he's going to bet that. And his top pair? I do. With how loose and aggressive he is, yeah, he probably would. Now, his turn c-bet's only 50%, but he's only had two of them. I'm going to continue with how loose and aggressive he is, that he's going to continue betting a lot of these hands. Middle pair, I think, might still bet, but now like fold to any sort of raise. And the weak pair might just check. Ace high is going to check. No made hand's going to check here. Nut flush draw is going to still bet. Second nut is probably going to bet. I'm going to take that out though. We're going to leave nut flush there. I don't think any of the weak or the third nut flushes are going to bet. I think they're just going to check and wait to see what I do. I don't think the open-ended straight draw is going to continue betting. I don't think the gut shot or the overcards are going to continue betting. So I've got 54.5% betting range, and we're not going to be favored. I mean, yeah, he's got middle pair, top pair, over pair, and so forth, and two pair, which we beat or tie. But he does have straight, and a flush now of that of this betting range is gonna make up a much bigger part of his total range. And the reason is because he had all of those suited cards. It's basically any two cards. So we have to be aware of that. I don't think we can fold. I think we still have to call. He's bet twice. It's looking like he likes his hand, but he could easily do this with an overpair. I think, aces, kings, and queens are going to probably, for this player, they're going to probably bet the same way, at least on the turn, and then we'll probably see him check on the river if he has those hands. So I called, which I think is okay, and then villain 7 calls. So now, we're still three-way. What's villain 7 going to do? I think, top pairs, I think his straight flush is definitely going to call. They're not going to raise. I think his flushes are going to probably call. Again, probably all of the flushes are going to call. His straights are going to call. His sets, his two pair, his over pair, I think is going to call. His top pair, so the 7/8s, 9/7s, 10/7s, I don't think they're all going to call. I actually think top pair might just find a fold and then complain if he finds out that the seven made it. I think with five out, if someone has a five, they've got the straight. I just don't think top pair is going to call. Overpair will, even though the overpair is still just a one pair hand. For some reason, people don't like to fold those overpairs. Nut flush draw, he's still going to call. Second nut flush draw, probably not. I don't think the weak flush draws are going to call. I don't think any of those are going to call. So against him, it's still 59.3% that he's going to call. I'm behind against these hands. Even though I have two pair, I think with their wide ranges, they've got so many more diamond flushes in their hands that I have to assume that I'm behind. Uh, so we go to the river, Queen of Hearts, and villain 7 checks, villain 10 checks. So they both check, and it's up to me. So villain 7, when he checks, I think probably still his entire range. If he's been this passive the entire time, he's still going to check. That's his MO, is to be passive. This player checking now is a bit more revealing. So because he is so aggressive, I don't expect him to have a flush or a straight. Uh, Probably not even a set or two pair. I think overpair could probably check. Uh, I think an overpair is going to check, top pair is going to check, pocket pair below, top pair, middle pair, weak pair. I think all of these hands are going to check. So against that range, yeah, I'm going to be ahead of all of that because I think with his high aggression, he's going to bet those hands that have a high likelihood of winning. We may be able to throw a two pair in there, and you can see that when we do, we go from 100% to now 93.6 because he could possibly had that queen, queen 7, queen 6, queen 4, queen 3. Uh, Queen 7, Queen 6 is what I have in the range, but I still beat a large chunk of that. I guess he could also check sets, but still, when we add the sets, I'm at 89%. Could he check the straights? Maybe. When we add the straights, we're still ahead. We're still ahead at 52%. What about list player? If I bet, so the question is, do I check behind and just take the showdown, which I think we should, or should we raise? I think if we bet, I think most of this flush draw is gonna be calling, probably all of it. I think the straight's gonna probably call, um, and I probably that's it. Maybe the sets in two pairs. So of the calling range, we're way behind, and I don't think he's gonna be calling with worse because he has to be concerned that this guy's also gonna call and is also gonna call with a decent hand. With how he played, he could have had trips, and is now scared. Uh, so I don't think if we bet, I don't think we're going to get called by enough worst hands to justify our bet. I think we take the showdown. And besides, also, pot 73, I've got 29.33 big blinds. So we can go back and look at the turn and say, he bet 16. That's only going to leave me with like 30 big blinds. Should I have just, shoved? I don't like the shove at all. I think calling is fine because if he now shoves into us, I think we can fold. I think he's demonstrating enough strength that he could probably beat, at least has a flush or at least has a straight. So once we get to here, I'm only betting, less than half pot. I don't have a lot of fold equity. So I think any hands that call are going to be hands that ultimately beat us because none of the other hands, they're just going to be too weak. They're just going to be too weak. So I didn't do that. I bet 29.3. So villain 7 calls and villain 10 folds. So what is he going to call with? Well, he calls. I assume I'm going to be beat once he calls. I think I was probably taking the stand to say, look, I'm representing. I'm willing to go all in. I'm going to represent. I have the diamond draw, or the flush. This guy folds, so I think he's got, I think, sets out of his range. He's probably way down here, and he calls. So let's see what he called with. He called with ace queen. He called with top pair. So let's see here. Do I have top pair? in his range. No, I don't. His offsuit ace queen I took out. Uh, I took that out on, I think this, let's see here. I guess I took it out on the flop. The overcards. Is that right? So we had ace queen in his starting range. And then we had that. Yeah, we just kind of assumed he wouldn't have called with just all of his overcards. But I guess if we do ace high, we now add all of that. But still, I just can't justify ace queen unless he did call with third nut flush. So ace queen is there. And then once the queen of hearts, uh, he's going to call with top pair 4%. His two pair sets. I mean, I still don't like. I still don't like the bet. Um, and I think in his mind he's probably calling because maybe I was on a draw and I missed and I'm taking a stab at it. I don't know. Uh, I don't like my bet at all. I got lucky. I got lucky on this hand and um, fortunate. I got lucky, but I don't like how I bet on the river. I think everything was suggesting that I'm behind, even with two pair. I just can't see these guys calling with worse, and yet he did. He called all the way down with ace queen, picked up the diamond draw, still called with it. Uh, Not even the nut or the second nut draw. He called with a third nut draw, caught a queen, and then decided to call. Very weak player. Mark this guy down and say he is very loose passive. He will call down with any pair.